Most teams set up PandaDoc and HubSpot wrong. Not the connection itself, that takes only about 2 seconds. It's actually the 4 things that you can figure after that. And those 4 things are pulling deal data into your proposals, syncing HubSpot products back into the pricing tables, sending document status back to the deal, and automating deal stage changes. So we're going to walk through each one as well as the actual connection itself and tell you how it's very useful in sales workflows. Let's jump right in. So just as a quick caveat, there are a couple of things to note here. When we configure this, there are 2 types of configurations that need to take place. One is the HubSpot and PandaDoc direct configuration, enabling the creation of documents and all of the variable fields populating across. And the second one is the external automations. So if you don't have access to external automations or you're not on the enterprise tier, then that might be an add-on. However, we're going to cover off both as a part of this video. They happen at the same time, so it's not, so it's sort of kind of part of the same process. So first things first is, there are a couple of different ways to connect PandaDoc and HubSpot. You can do it from within the profile settings area, or the back end, basically. The settings in the back end have an integration section. And within integrations, you can go ahead and connect HubSpot to PandaDoc, that is an option. The other option is to connect directly by the template itself. So I'm just going to quickly refresh here, and we should see the ability to connect extensions. So we are looking at extensions here on the right hand side, and if you haven't connected HubSpot already, this will show up in here somewhere within this area, and you can go ahead and click that there, and it will basically bring you to this screen which shows you that you're able to connect. We'll go ahead and click connect here, and the screen will change. We'll be presented with this screen. One other thing to note is that you need to be signed into your HubSpot account. You can see in the top right hand corner that I'm signed in. If you're not, it will just fail to connect. So you need to be signed into your account. You'll then go ahead and select the account to connect it to. If you're a part of multiple workspaces, make sure you're connecting to the correct workspace. One other thing to note is that the connection is on a per workspace level. So if you need to connect different workspaces within PandaDoc, then you'll go ahead and run through this setup for each workspace connected to HubSpot. So we've got the HubSpot demo accounts is the one that I'm going to connect here. We'll go ahead and connect account. This is the straight up connection that does the documents and templates and the variables, all that kind of stuff. Allows you to create documents from companies, contacts, and deals. And it needs a bunch of access to information, of course, to populate those documents that get created. We'll go ahead and click the checkbox down the bottom here and connect the application. So you'll see that passes through. It just takes a moment, and then you're presented immediately. If you have access to PandaDoc automations or the external automations feature, you'll see that presents here, and then you can go ahead and do exactly the same thing in order to connect automations. And we'll just go ahead and accept that. Okay, so once this is done, we'll end up back in HubSpot, and we'll have a look at what that looks like. Okay, perfect. So we're back in HubSpot here, and I'm just on a test deal here, and you can see that the PandaDoc module is on the right hand side here. For you, it might be at the very bottom of here. It depends on whether you've used it before or connected it, but yeah, generally speaking, it will be connected here, and that is that from the HubSpot side of things. In PandaDoc, the connection now shows that it's able to link to other documents, and you can view the variables, and if you have access to the automation side of things, you can configure the rules within here as well. Okay, so first things first, we're going to look at the deal data coming into the proposals. So we'll go ahead and create a document, and we'll look at how this works basically. So we're using variable fields. You can also use standard fields as well, but we're using variable fields here to show the connection. And there's a whole bunch that you can do around this, but the majority use cases are variable fields. I'm just going to select the template that we're using, which is this technical proposal template. And you can see that even from this step, you can see that the configuration is working. So Lisa is the associated contact on the HubSpot deal, and you can see that hers are coming up under the client signer field. I'm going to go ahead and select Lisa, and we'll see Lisa's details come into the proposal in the variables that are associated there. Let's give this one moment. So while this is loading, you can imagine the use case here is that for sales reps to not have to double enter information across systems. This is super useful, especially for businesses that send out many quotes per day, per week, etc. So you can see the details are in here. My details, Lisa's details have populated through into the proposal. And anywhere that those details are referenced, for example, Washington and Sons, you can see that that variable is populated correctly into here. So that's basically, in a nutshell, how the configuration works. If you want these variable fields in your proposal, on the actual template itself, you'll go ahead and add the variables that exist within HubSpot. And to find out what variables you can use, you can go into here and you can show the PandaDoc tokens. You can definitely use custom variables as well. They don't have to be just stock standard fields like address or name. You can see in here that you can even pull from the company record. So under the deal, you could pull from, say, the currency, right? Deal currency code. If we populate, like copy this code across and put it into here, then it will show when a document's created from this template. It'll show USD under this particular instance. So that's how that works. The second thing we can go over quickly is the syncing of HubSpot products into pricing tables. Actually, as a part of this process, we already have on this deal 2 line items, the professional services and item 1. And I can show you in the example that we just created that the total amount has actually populated through and those line items exist in the quote here. So in order to enable this, we basically need to go to the quote on the template and ensure that the properties, under properties, the data merge is enabled. This will be enabled by default, quite typically, but sometimes it's not. And so, or it could have been disabled on a particular template. So you may need to enable it basically, and then save. And once it's enabled, it will pull from the deal if there are line items on the deal, and you'll end up with something that looks like this. And you can definitely play around with the way that it looks within the quote builder. So that's basically how that works. The third thing that we want to look at is the document status back to the deal. So this one is actually automatic. So what happens here is you can see here that within this module, the draft, this is showing draft for this particular order that or document I should say, that we've just created. And as this progresses through the stages, say when we've sent it, it will be in sent and it'll show sent here. Once it's been approved, it'll show approved. Once it's been completed, paid, etc., it'll show all of those here. So that one, there's actually nothing you need to set up manually. It's automatically configured and ready to go. And finally, automating deal stage changes. So this one is very useful for sales teams, especially sending out a lot of quotes. You can see that, let's put this back into decision maker bought in. What we want is that when the when the document is created and sent, that it basically moves automatically into the different stages. And I'll show you exactly how that works. Within the document, within the template, itself, we're going to go to configure rules under the HubSpot integration on the right-hand side. And so you just go directly into this configure rules area. And there are a few things you can do here. This is all within the automations add-on, I guess, or otherwise the enterprise tier. So it's something to note. If you don't have access to this, then you might need to talk to your PandaDoc rep and just see if this is something you can get access to. So you can do things like update the deal properties within HubSpot, and you can update based on variable values. You can update and remove line items. This is particularly useful and not something that we're covering off as a part of this video, but just very quickly, when you toggle this on, the line items that are on the quote, if they've been amended, will write back and overwrite, even if you want them to, the line items that exist on the deal in HubSpot. So that's definitely possible to do. And they'll update the deal amount. That's valuable. The other thing you can do is attaching a PDF, whether it's sent and completed. And then finally, down the bottom here, we have change the deal stage in HubSpot when various things happen. So you can add these rows in here. At the moment, I've got this configured to when it's sent, add to contract sent in deal stage within HubSpot, and that one there is here. So what would happen is when the deal is sent out, it will automatically move over to contract sent. Once it's completed, it will automatically move to close one. So you can see there's a lot of potential there in terms of the actual automation. So that's that. I hope that is super helpful. If you have any questions, just drop them in the comments below, and I hope to see you in the next video. Thanks. Bye.